So let's go into that premise of no money, bad credit, but we have all this knowledge.
Right. And time and desire and hustle.
Yeah. So right now is a decent time for Airbnbs.
Yeah.
It's not the heyday like it was a couple years ago. There are some implications happening at municipal levels, city, county levels of them, enforcing some guidelines on Airbnbs and short-term rentals. But there are untapped markets out there.
Yeah, I think the strategy is going into markets, one, where an Airbnb policy has been established.
Yeah.
Because if there's not a policy currently, then that means there's probably one coming.
Yeah.
And you don't know.
And with one that's established, you understand the rules that you have to operate within.
Yes. Yeah, and I think focusing on vacation towns.
Yeah.
So, like, we like to go up into the Blue Ridge Mountains. Right. I would focus there, not just, like, in our hometown.
But, Tiffany, we have no money. We have no credit. How are we setting up an Airbnb?
Yeah, it's Airbnb arbitrage.
Yep.
Which is, I go to a landlord.
Let's say I'm the landlord.
Okay. All right, boss man. You own the house.
Yep, I own this big house.
And it's listed for rent, and I find it on Zillow as a house for rent. And it's in a desirable market. I know the Airbnb laws. And I go to you and say, hey, I want to rent this house from you.
Okay.
I will pay you 10%, 15%, pick your number, over your asking rent.
Oh, that's scary. What are you asking for?
I want to be able to sublease this on Airbnb.
That's kind of scary.
The thing is, the house will be cleaned regularly.
Okay.
Most people stay about a week. So the house will be cleaned once a week. There's less wear and tear because people aren't, living their normal day-to-day life there. So the house will be better kept. Mm-hmm. And I will let you know of any major maintenance issues or repairs.
But what if you set it up as this Airbnb rental and it doesn't rent? What are you going to do? Are you still going to pay me?
Yeah, I will pay you.
Okay. So that's a risk you're willing to take.
Yes. Because I will hustle and I will figure out the best way to rent this Airbnb. And if that doesn't work, I have the furniture already in the property. So my investment's going to be the furniture.
Yeah. So
probably $10,000 to $15,000 per property. And then if it doesn't work, then I look at other avenues like renting to unfurnished finders or a site like that to midterm rentals. Mm-hmm. I think the future, though, is Airbnb. Okay. And I heard on a podcast the other day that I was listening to that they foresee something like house sharing. And it sounded like timeshares, but not as like creepy, I guess. Mm-hmm. Where 3 or 4 people might go in and each buy a house and they split time between the houses. Because work is more remote now.
So like you get 4 people and the 4 of y'all buy 4 different houses and 4 different climate zones.
Yeah.
And then
you rotate around. Yeah, you just kind of agree on who's going where, when. Yeah. And you just timeshare the house, basically.
But it's not within like a timeshare type capacity where there's HOA type deals.
Right, and you're getting...
It's essentially going to be set up in some type of trust where you 4 own it.
And it would probably be like buddies. Like I could see us renting with our friend.
Okay.
And like he loves the winter, we do not. So
are we buying this house or are we renting this house?
This was a tangent.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Airbnb arbitrage.
So you rent the house from someone that owns it.
Okay.
I personally think you offer slightly higher rent to compensate them because there is a little bit of risk.
Yeah.
I would try to negotiate a month-to-month contract just in case. Mm-hmm. And then you buy the furniture and...
So I'm going to challenge you here. You don't have any money. You don't have any credit. How are you getting the furniture?
Maybe you go to Rent-A-Center. They do financing for people with really bad credit. It's an option.
So it's a big gamble.
It is.
But you're trying to make it. You know that the destination is a have to be at.
Right.
Which is the financial freedom. You got to be there. You're willing to take this big risk and put your butt on the line.
I mean, what's the worst case scenario? If we want to go down the best case, worst case.
Well, I mean, worst case scenario, it doesn't rent.
Right.
You get evicted as the tenant.
Right.
And you don't pay your note on the Rent-A-Center furniture and it gets repoed.
And your credit gets trashed more, which is not great.
And your credit goes back down
But
to nothing.
what's the best
from
case
nothing.
scenario?
Well, best case scenario is that you have a functioning, profitable Airbnb that you have minimal risk in because you don't own the property.
Right.
You capture all of the gains above what your rent is and your utilities.
So probably $1,000 a month, I think, is a reasonable estimate.
It depends on how much you're financing on that furniture.
I know. I'm just saying.
I'm getting in the weeds of it, but
you could make it probably $500 to $1,000 a month. And how many houses would it take for you to support your lifestyle?
I think
just a rhetorical question.
10 to 15, most
Right.
people could do it.
Yeah.
If you could go find 10 to 15 landlords, you might even find just one landlord with 10 to 15
Right.
units and do it that way.
Yeah.
So,
And if you have some cash, $15,000 per property is not a huge amount to put in.
yeah. And the more properties you convert into these Airbnbs, you'll be able to snowball it and pay off those old debts
Right.
and start paying cash for all your furniture.
Right.
And probably even upgrading some things and getting hot tubs at some of them and making sure your landlord's okay with that.
Right.
And just, letting them know, hey, you have a hot tub at this property now. Y'all may want a vacation there.
Yeah.
And you end up building this really good relationship with this landlord. And the best case scenario is you end up buying that property from that landlord on terms.
That my next comment was going to be, in your contract with them, you can write in an option to purchase the home.
Right.
Or a right of first refusal, which means if they decide to sell, that you have the opportunity to buy it first.
Yeah.
That's an advanced strategy. So for our friends that are in the advanced investing realm, I think that's something to consider. But
Absolutely.
if you're new, don't get hung up on that last thought.
Yeah. Just think, if you're over the age of 18, you have the legal right to rent a property.
Right. And if you manage the property well and are good to that landlord, when they go to sell, you're going to be the first one to know.
That's
Because
right.
they're going to have to get the house ready.
Yeah.
So then you do have the opportunity, even if you don't have it written in the contract,
Absolutely.
to buy it. So
Make sure you educate yourself first on what Airbnb consists of.
right. I mean, we know nothing.
Yeah.
We're talking about Airbnb our house,
Right.
and we don't know anything about it, and we're not interested in learning anything about it because we have too many other things going on. So we have an expert that we're willing to pay and pay her a monthly percentage.
That's right.
So you could be that person, though.
It's the who, not how.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we talked a little bit last episode about struggling with hiring other people and like letting them run parts of our business, and this is one example of where we're doing okay.
Yep. That's right.